We will not accept your fucking bourgeois complacency, I yelled gloriously in a working voice. We will protest until you stand up to fucking racism. And then we all began protesting again and chanting, McGonagall is a racist troll. Let's stick a staff up her hole.
Protest my decision if you want, said Dumbledore in an evil libertarian voice. However, I must ask you to be respectful to your professors and to not make references to their private parts in your chants.
Don't you fucking tone police me, you ancient white imperialist with a tiny wrinkled up dick, I yelled socialistically. We'll be as offensive as possible because that's the only way to fucking change anything around here. Suddenly, the door to the Great Hall burst open and in walked Dean Thomas.
Hey guys,
he said in an ignorant voice.
I've just discovered the greatest communist ever. His name was Leon Trotsky. He was an awesome guy and not a Nazi fifth communist at all. The Soviet Union was pretty bad. It could have been wonderful, but Stalin ruined it all. The Churchill was an amazing fella, and Chairman Mao killed more people than fucking Hitler.
Go away! I yelled in a voice of true communism. We don't want your fucking Trotskyite revisionists!
You know, protesting against the racist teachers and the libertarian maniac Dumbledore is all well and good, but you're underestimating the threat from the extreme right-wing Death Eaters, who are surely preparing to seize power even now.
That's a great point,
said Dumbledore oppressively.
That's why we should all be united together, no matter how racist you silly commies like to imagine we are.
No, it's fucking not, I screeched for the fucking proletariat. Why should we care which right-wing bourgeois capitalists rule us? Did Comrade Lenin align himself with the Tsar to get rid of Kaiser Wilhelm? No, he got rid of the fucking Tsar.
Actually, he got rid of the provisional government, which was a democracy, said Hermione elitistly in her bourgeois ivory tower. Everything would have been so much better if fucking Kerensky had stayed in power. That's why everyone should be a liberal like me. Liberals are on the same side of the political spectrum as communism, but more moderate.
Yeah, moderate to the point of being fucking corporate sellouts to fucking capitalism, I yelled at the bourgeois intelligentsia Hermione. We don't want our Warsaw Pact polluted with a bunch of fucking liberals and Trotskyites. Stalin for the fucking win.
Chapter 23, May Day Special.
Well, I'm glad that's all resolved,
said Dumbledore, and everyone turned to walk back to their seats.
Hey, wait a second, I screamed loudly in a loud voice. Nothing was fucking resolved. What about McGonagall's fucking bourgeois racism?
Mr. Potter, if you think I'm racist, that's fine, said McGonagall
in an elitist voice of pure racism.
I'm not. I believe in being colorblind and what Martin Luther King Jr. said about judging people by the content of their character.
That's the fucking very definition of racism, you fucking racist bitch! I yelled in a revolutionary voice. You're ignoring the racist privilege of bourgeois white privilege. You can't just take things from the culture of a country you fucking colonized and claim them as your own. It's cultural appropriation.
I agree that everyone should stick to their own cultures, said Draco Malfoy in an accidentally anti-racist voice. I also agree that Professor McGonagall should be fired.
See, even Draco Malfoy can tell you how fucking racist you are, I yelled back to her in a proletarian way. You say that we're fighting this imperialist war against the Death Eaters because of their racism, and yet we're more racist than they are? Who are we to fucking tell them anything?
That's quite enough, Mr. Potter, screeched McGonagall racistly. Your detention with Professor Pepsi will now include all the members of your little club. Chapter 24. Another detention. We all socialistically went to our fucking detention in the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom with fucking Professor Pepsi. There were 2 bourgeois books on each of our desks.
Welcome to your detention,
said that fucking capitalist pig, Professor Pepsi, in an evil voice.
Today we're going to be learning about how communism is just a horrible lie. First we'll be reading Animal Farm. You know, it's telling the truth about the non-glorious Russian Revolution because it was written by the CIA. Next, we'll read Why Communism is More Evil Than the Western Media Says by John Strassel. Then, we'll relax by watching the wonderful non-propaganda film Ninochka.
No, comrades, don't fall for this, I yelled, using freedom of speech in a revolutionary way for the proletariat. They're trying to brainwash us.
"Oh, you silly Reds," laughed Professor Pepsi in a corporate voice. "It's only brainwashing when it's done by godless commies like you. I'm just telling you the truth about how awesome bourgeois democracy is and how communism killed 100 million people."
"And how many has capitalism killed, you fucking corporate shill?" I yelled gloriously in a working voice.
"The joke's on you," laughed Professor Pepsi evilly. "Deaths caused by communist countries are attributable to communism, but deaths caused by capitalist countries aren't attributable to capitalism for some reason. Now get your copies of Animal Farm and start reading."
"No, we won't be brainwashed by hearing the wrong point of view. We'll do nothing that you fucking tell us to," I screeched in a working man's voice.
"Then you're going to fucking Azkaban," said Professor Pepsi in a capitalist voice. Then he grabbed forward, grabbed my arm and dragged me out of the room. He imperialistically put me on a broomstick with him and flew me to London. We went into the Ministry of Magic and he oppressively sat me in the chair with the bourgeois chains and the Wizengamot. "Harry Potter is a communist and he's threatening the war effort," Professor Pepsi told the court in a greedy voice of capitalism. "His actions support the Death Eaters and make him a fucking evil traitor."
"You're sentenced to life in Azkaban, Potter," said that ugly hag Dolores Umbridge in a fucking bourgeois voice. "Take him away." "No! You can't do this!" I screamed as the Dementors imperialistically came forward to take me to Azkaban in a bourgeois way.
Chapter 25. Harry goes to Azkaban for the people.
"No! Let me go!" I yelled proletariatly as the Dementors pushed me into the front door of Azkaban.
"Welcome to Azkaban, you fucking traitor," laughed the warden, who was an ugly fat woman. I could tell she was a lesbian. Not that I was homophobic or anything. I just knew that her name was Hildegard.
"You're the fucking traitor, you petty bourgeois scum," I yelled at her in a revolutionary voice. "Running a prison in a capitalist country makes you a traitor to the fucking people."
"Oh, it's a little commie," she laughed in a sadistic voice of imperialism. "Ha ha 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 ha!" "We have a lot of your kind in here where they belong. Oh, and your traitorous clothing will not be permitted within these walls."
"No! That's my property!" I yelled communistically as the Dementors took my Ushanka and tore apart my Che Guevara t-shirt, exposing my manly chest with its proletarian chest hairs. They tossed my hat and the remains of my shirt into a fire. "No!" I screamed in a justified way. Hildegard laughed in the evil voice of the bourgeois system of imperialist justice for the fucking 1% capitalism.
"Next, we'll get rid of that hammer and sickle on your forehead,"
she said, and took out her wand and tried to do a spell to change my scar back into the lightning bolt. I fucking laughed at her.
"That change is fucking permanent," I told her in the voice of the fucking people. "You can never change it back. Never."
"Well, we'll just have to cover it up then,"
she said, and the Dementors put a sweatband on me. With my bare masculine chest, it made me look exactly like Rambo. Except I wasn't a fighter for bourgeois imperialism like he was.
"Now, take that traitor to his fucking cell,"
she laughed in a capitalist voice.
"You'll regret this when you meet the will of the people," I screamed at her bravely in an awesome proletariat voice.
Chapter 26. Dobby.
The Dementors imperialistically took me to a fucking cell and threw me in a bourgeois way. I got up muscularly with my shirtless chest looking sexy, not that I cared about that, and ran to the cell door to see through the bars. The fucking Dementors going away through the bars. "You can't keep me locked in here forever, you bourgeois nimrods," I yelled after them in a proletarian working voice of socialist freedom and revolution. Of course, they didn't do anything other than keep going away, but they were just delaying the inevitable. The People's Revolution would come, and I would help bring it. Not even the walls of Azkaban could keep down the people's will. I looked around the tiny imperialist cell with stone walls made of stone for any ideas of how to escape. Suddenly, Dobby appeared out of nowhere by the window, which had exploitative bars in it. "Dobby, get me the fuck out of here!" I yelled in an anti-capitalist way.
"Harry Potter cannot go back to Hogwarts,"
said Dobby annoyingly.
"If Harry Potter goes back to Hogwarts, he will be in great danger."
"I don't fucking care," I explained socialistically. "I'm a communist revolutionary ready to fight the bourgeois capitalist establishment of fucking capitalism."
"Harry Potter must stay here,"
said Dobby back to me.
terrible things are happening at Hogwarts, and Professor Pepsi is doing them. It is no longer safe there.
Then you've got to get me the fuck out of here! I yelled gloriously. We need to fucking stop that bourgeois capitalist fuckhole.
No, Harry Potter is fucking safe here,
said Dobby bourgeoisly. No! You get me the fuck out of here! I screamed and tried to grab Dobby with my amazing Quidditch-toned arm, but he fucking disappeared. Fuck you, Dobby! I yelled in an outrageous voice. My fucking righteous proletarian anger at fucking Dobby was strong, but I knew it needed to be turned towards the constructive ends of overthrowing the fucking capitalist bourgeois system of corporatist liberal elitism. As I looked around the cell, I thought about how Comrade Lenin had proletariatly written the development of capitalism in Russia when he was imprisoned in Shushenskoye by a fucking bourgeois. Now that I was in his place, I decided that I too would write a fucking communism book. I got down on the cell floor and took out the journal that I happened to have with me. The journal was communist red with a big fucking hammer and sickle on the front. I got out my proletarian pen, which had one picture of Lenin on the end, and started writing in a spirit of radical working-class socialism. My book was called How Bourgeois Liberalism is the Imperialist Effect of the 1% Capitalist Consciousness Establishment and the Role of Revolutionary Socialism for the Improved Comradely Living Standards of the Proletarian Workers of fucking Hogwarts, by Harry Pol Potter. I changed my middle name because my father James had been such a bourgeois douchebag.
Harry, is that you in there?
Said a vague female voice I thought I might have recognized from somewhere I might have heard before earlier. It seemed to be coming from the cell next to mine. I put down my revolutionary journal and went over the wall. Tonks, is that you?
Yes, Harry, it's me,
she said back in a proletarian way. How did you end up in here? Dumbledore fucking privatized Hogwarts, I explained comradely. Then he hired this fucking bourgeois capitalist Professor Pepsi to teach defense against the dark arts. But actually, Professor Pepsi is in charge of the fucking school now, and Dumbledore sucks on his corporate cock. I tried to resist him and point out the fucking flaws of capitalism, but fucking Professor Pepsi said I was supporting the Death Eaters and sent me to fucking Azkaban. I'm not surprised, said Tonks to the capitalist wall. I thought it was the right thing to fight the Death Eaters for being such right-wing reactionaries, but all the other auras talk about is how they must be destroyed for challenging the bourgeois power of the ministry. One day I showed up to work wearing a Che Guevara t-shirt of freedom, and they called me a fucking traitor. And they said I supported the fucking Death Eaters, even though I've been socialistically fighting them this whole time, and they sent me straight to Azkaban. It's Crouchism all over again, I said wisely. They're using the threat of the Death Eaters as an imperialist excuse to keep down the communist revolution. Fighting the reactionary Death Eaters may seem revolutionary, but they're just playing into the endless wars of the military-industrial complex to keep themselves greedy, wealthy, rich, and to have an excuse to crush any threat to the capitalist system. The only way we'll have justice for the fucking proletariat is if we destroy fucking capitalism. Yes, I see that now, said Tonks, sighing comradely. But how can we do that when the bourgeoisie has locked us up in here? Well, we'll have to fucking escape, I said, in a revolutionary way.